Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched another film at BFI's London Film Festival, a film called I Lost My Body, which is actually a French animation, so get ready for me to butcher a whole bunch of names, including the director Jérémy Clapin, who also wrote this film alongside Guillaume Laurent. Sorry. So this one tells two stories concurrently, one about a young man named Nufal who is grieving over the loss of his parents, who falls in love with a girl called Gabrielle when he delivers her a pizza, and the other is about a severed hand trying to find and reconnect with its body. So let's start there, shall we, with this severed hand, which is basically the Thing from the Addams Family, where it's cut off just above the wrist and it runs around on its fingers like this. Let me tell you, this hand goes on quite an epic journey. We first see it waking up in this hospital where it promptly goes through this prison break style escape, and then it traverses across an entire city battling pigeons, rats, ants and dogs along the way in some really thrilling set pieces which are really super impressive. But what really impressed me about the hand story, like if I do this, like, what does that kind of remind you of? A spider, right? And I think most people would agree that they don't think fondly of spiders, including myself. But the way that the animators have animated this thing, it does look like a spider in certain scenes, but the amount of expressions and emotions that they've managed to get out of this hand is incredible. You know when it's excited or sad or happy or tired and exhausted. There's a lovely scene when it gets into this person's house, this blind man who's playing a piano, and it rests on top of the piano and you can just see it relaxing and enjoying the music. Another scene later on when it falls into a baby's crib and the dummy falls out and the hand puts the dummy back in its mouth in such a sweet and tender scene. The film effortlessly moves between the hand's epic adventure and Nufal's story, seamlessly transitioning into flashbacks of him as a kid with his parents in stark black and white to his teenage years living with his uncaring uncle and obnoxious cousin. He's understandably a very melancholic character. He's a lost soul, and we learn that as a kid he used to have dreams of becoming an astronaut and a pianist, but now he's ended up as this pizza delivery boy and he's rubbish at it. But it does lead to this chance encounter with Gabrielle, who he falls in love with, and he starts to follow in a bit of a stalkery way, if I'm honest, but it does change the course of his life, and the story doesn't necessarily unfold in the way that you think it's going to unfold, but his story is relatively straightforward and it does combine well and parallel well with the story of the hand, which is all obviously open to interpretation, and I will give my thoughts on that without giving away any spoilers later. For now, I just want to emphasize on just how stunning this film is to look at. From the character animation to the environment design, the colours and mood of which changes with the lighting. It's very cinematic too, with dynamic camera movements. The perspective changes, so when you're with the hand, we see it from its point of view and at its level. So you get depth of field and bokeh effects as the foreground and background shift in and out of focus. It's like the makers have said, how would a real camera and the lenses behave if it was filmed in real life, and then they've recreated it in 2D drawings. I think there are some 3D CG elements in there, but for the most part it's got that hand-drawn feel and it's just beautiful. I think this film is more accomplished than some live action films I've seen recently. And that's why I love animation so much. There is literally no limit to the imagination. I think most people, when you say animated movies, tend to think of your Disneys, your Pixars, your DreamWorks and your Blue Sky Studios, which I'm not saying don't explore adult themes in their films. I think most people's perception is that animation is just for kids, when for me it totally isn't. It's just another way of telling really fascinating stories, and this story is a thought-provoking one about grief and loss, absolutely. But my biggest takeaway from it, I think that the message at the end of the film is that yes, life can be tough. It does beat you mentally and physically, and you might not necessarily achieve what you initially set out to achieve, but that doesn't mean that you're broken and should give up and should stop trying. You can still dream and achieve great things. which I think is a really lovely message. So that's my thoughts on I Lost My Body, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. To be honest, I haven't seen many French produced animations. I could probably count them all on one severed hand. I think my favourite one that I've ever seen is called The Illusionist, which is just wonderful. I also really liked The Triplets of Belleville. I think this one is about on par with that one, not quite at the Illusionist level, but it was still a really fascinating watch, and I just love its style and craftsmanship. Kind of makes me sad that I will never produce anything that looks this good. You should definitely check this one out. But let me know what your thoughts are if you've seen it, and also let me know what your favourite non-DreamWorks or Disney or Pixar animation film is. You can include Studio Ghibli in that, I'll allow that. Let me know down in the comments, and as always, thanks very much for checking out this review. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give it a like, and don't forget to share the lave. Merci. Sorry.